I believe access to cultural education is a matter of social justice. And it's a sad truth that often those with access to the best opportunities that the arts have to offer are those young people with parents with the ability to pay. That cannot be right. So I'm delighted that broadening access and opportunities to the arts is a priority for my department. Since 2012, we've invested £460 million in cultural education projects that complement what is happening in the classroom. Our commitment to rigorous arts qualifications is also a reflection of the significant and ever-increasing contribution that the creative industries make to our country, bringing in £77 billion a year, outpacing growth and job creation in many other industries. And that is why I firmly reject any suggestion that I or this government think that arts subjects are in any way less important or less worthy than other subjects for study in school. Let me be clear. What limits career choices and holds people back is not being given the information and advice to pick the right combination of subjects that will open doors for their future and let pupils pursue the career of their dreams. Anyone who believes in social justice, who believes in the power of education to transform lives, must agree that all children, whatever their start in life, deserve the chance to get these qualifications and see doors open. But what that does not mean is that these are the only subjects that we value, or the only subjects that matter. I would expect any good school to complement these subjects with a range of opportunities in the arts. And the evidence is that this is what schools are already doing. The percentage of pupils who were entered for at least one arts GCSE has increased since 2010. So I hope, in conclusion, that I have allayed the myth that the arts or the creative industries are in any way held in low esteem by me or this government. To the contrary, my ambition is to ensure that every pupil gets a rich cultural education. Because access to the arts is the birthright of every child, regardless of their background. And if we want to ensure that we nurture the next generation of Tracy Emins, Andrew Lloyd Webbers and Helen Mirrens, then we need to inspire a love of art, design, music, drama and culture from the very first day of a young person's education and keep it going throughout the rest of their lives. Thank you for your attention.
One thing to say about the Federation and our priorities, it is not just to bring the arts, the commercial creative industries and education closer together to give this, the fastest growing sector in the UK, more heft and more cohesion, but it is to locate the arts and the creative industries at the heart of government priorities, public policy and civic life, very much rejecting the contention that there is anything tangential or nice to have about the arts. This is what so many people around the world associate with the UK,
absolutely.
and this is the driver for our economy, as well as the good society and the well-rounded individual.
I just wanted to quote one person, Tony Little, the outgoing head of Eton, who has said about the EBacc, by limiting the subjects that are valued, the EBacc is downgrading and reducing the potential for achievement.
The fact that the STEM subjects and other subjects are statutory in EBacc and the art subjects are not, no matter the reassurances you give, do give a sense of two divisions.
I'm making it very clear in the speech and very clear on the way that Ofsted are going to be inspecting schools that we will expect to see a broad curriculum, broader than just EBacc subjects. And that then a broadness will obviously include art subjects too.
Yes, and the new Ofsted framework actually focuses increasingly, and more so than previously, on broad and balanced curriculum. It's now a key part of the leadership and management element. The other thing to say is that the EBacc is a small enough group of subjects, and we've always resisted adding other subjects to it when we've had demands to do so, whether it's economics or religious studies, in order to keep it small, so that there is scope beyond the EBacc core to study extra subjects like music and art and so on. The danger of applying too many what are called limiting judgments to Ofsted's discretion in the way they inspect is that you end up with a very prescriptive approach to Ofsted inspection, and we don't want that. What we have done instead is to put into the leadership and management element, part of the Ofsted framework, this focus on a broad and balanced curriculum. And that is, we think that is a far better, more professional way for Ofsted to conduct their judgments, because you get a demand for that particular limiting judgment, but other people, such as the sports and so on, will also demand similar limiting judgments on Ofsted. And we're trying to move away from that limiting judgment when it comes to Ofsted.
There has been a sense that we've been in a binary state of choosing between arts and culture, culture education and science. And I think there is so much evidence that I'm sure you're aware of to suggest that young people who engage in arts and culture, that has a direct impact on their attainment in other subjects, including STEM subjects. And so I think it would be great as well to reinforce, I think, the language that you're not having to choose between one or the other, that there's a fundamental relation between the two.
But you hit the nail on the head when you talked about really everything you were talking about, the well-rounded young person, because what we want at the end of our education is well-rounded young people who are both being stretched academically, who have come to appreciate their place in the world, come to appreciate their humanity, who have the character, the resilience, the inspiration for their future. They found, if not their final niche in life, then the starting point where they're going to carry on into further study or the world of work or become an apprentice, and then can go on from there and to enjoy the wider world that we have. I don't know much about contemporary dance, I have to admit, but I think things like the ballet are a total birthright, and I think that watching young people for the first time see a dance performance, see a ballet performance, to hear the music, to be in a theatre, is truly a magical thing to take a young person to see that. We spent £109 million on this 15-16, which is £17 million more than we spent the previous financial year on arts and cultural education. And I should be arguing the point I think we've already touched on before, which is that if we want well-rounded young people to be able to identify their options for the future, to be inspired about future choices, then actually being able to protect the art spend in my department, as well as protecting things like the sport premium, are going to be very, very important. Now, I don't know where we're going to end up in discussions with the Treasury, but what I do know is that you have a Chancellor in this country who in successive budgets has announced incentives and support for arts and support for particular institutions or sectors. And so clearly the Chancellor is also very, very interested in this area. Now, we have lots of excellent schools and excellent teachers across the country, but we don't yet have them everywhere. And so my task is to make sure that we do get them to be absolutely everywhere, and that young people, regardless of where they're educated, regardless of their background, are getting access to rigorous qualifications, which is obviously what we've been working on, great inspirational teaching, being inspired in the future. And if that means great local school partnerships, then absolutely. I am very much in favour of that, and we already have ways in the department of connecting schools and helping independent schools to work with other local schools in the areas. As I say, I think it's happening in lots of places, and the best thing now the sector can do is to shout about it and show off what, both sides, because I think frankly it's not just about independent schools sharing things with maintained schools. It very much works. It's a two-way process, and we have some fantastic maintained and academy schools in this country.
Because I think kids engage with the arts anyway, and they love the arts. And one of the pressures that I'm always told about is one which echoes my own experiences, which is one of sort of familial and cultural pressures to sort of not quite engage with the arts. So I'd love to sort of hear more about your commitment to diversity in the arts outside of the classroom as well.
It's about having role models. So the power of you and others going back into classrooms cannot be underestimated. And also making sure that we're talking about things like, video gaming is one of those things that actually if you're involved or you know something about the industry, you know what an amazing success it is. I have De Montfort University near my constituency, Leicester. I went to see their video gaming course recently, and sad to say, I think there were one or two girls on it, but there weren't many, and it would be nice to see many, many more. And I think if people knew that was something, a sector that we were doing incredibly well as a country. And these are the skills that are needed, both computer science, but also creativity as well. Then actually more people might think about it, particularly more women might think about going into those different careers.
Education is one of the three parts of our triangle of creative industries, publicly invested arts and education. We do very much hope that this isn't a one-off, and this is part of an ongoing engagement with you both, with your department officials and otherwise, because there's a huge amount of work to do on this, engaging with us and with employers and with arts leaders on all the issues that we were talking about, also about diversity, about reaching as broad a cross-section as possible. There's a lot, I would suggest, I would contend that we could do together on this with you in your department. But thank you all for coming. Thank you to the Roundhouse and to Marcus for hosting us so well. And most particularly, thanks to Nick Gibb and particularly to Nicky Morgan for addressing us today.